How long does it take to achieve perfection in Stardew Valley if you've never played before and you can't look anything up? Let's see if we can find out today, shall we? No looking up where the fish are, no running to the wiki for hints on golden walnut spots, and no guides on where on earth to get this thing. This marks the third chapter in this 100-day series, but feel free to start here and check out how the first 200 days went after this video. Just know that the community center is already done. My only hints so far have come from the comments, and I have a lot left to do. So, let's get started. Day 201 started with a reacclimation to the valley once again, this time with a letter from Rasmodius asking for an iridium bar. So I started things off as an errand boy once again. I should mention really quick that the game had a large update between day 200 and 201, so there were lots of new things to find and do. I decided to start with the quests I still had, and harvested the greenhouse for Pierre's quest, and grabbed enough from my stores to turn in ahead of time. I started noticing the little improvements, like no more black bars on the side of the screen here, and winter clothing on the villagers. I tried to give Pierre his vegetables, but he hated them, of course. I read the quest this time, and tossed some corn in there to get the job done. Lucky for Gus, there was a lobster all ready to go down at the ocean, and he accepted it in hand like a normal person. With that, only harvesting a few quality crops remained on the quest list. I decided to tackle this cellar sooner rather than later, since I really wanted to crack the Joja mystery, and cooked a pepper popper for speed. A new lizard hatched. Bah! What a great name. Welcome to the team, Bah. I got back into the rhythm of animal product processing, as I wanted cheese to make more poppers for speed for later. I also started converting my coffees into espressos, since it seemed to be a bit more efficient. I sold some things for collections, and noticed that for some reason I had a heater in my shed. I'll never understand myself. I also sold a bunch of stuff from the greenhouse, moved a few things around, and learned during sleepy time that mystery boxes can now be found. Mr. Chi was up to shenanigans again. Marnie sent me this letter about adopting more pets, but I was barely taking care of the animals I already had. I'm probably not gonna do that. Let's water that bowl I never forget about. Look, a mystery box. I finished off that last quest and collected the newly colored strawberry wine. I saved one and sold the rest, both for the cellar project, and topped off the kegs. These mystery boxes had to be broken like geodes at Clint's, where I got a couple random items. I'd also finally noticed that I could buy coal from Clint, so I made an investment. Back home, I tested a strange theory. Maybe we have to, like, stock our ponds with a void egg, because, like, maybe void eggs hatch into chickens if they're hatched in the air, but they hatch into salmon if they're hatched in water. I was really struggling for that void salmon, but it wasn't to be. There was this new menu tab for the animals, and the past wallet had been converted to this powers tab, and where the wallet had been was some new info. I made some new kegs. Spoiler alert, you're gonna be hearing a lot about kegs soon. I chunked a few of the things I'd been saving in the bin before sleep, snagging almost enough for that cellar. I found another new feature on day 203, this prize ticket, which I could redeem in Lewis's place, where I earned my first powdermelon seeds. I stopped in Pierre's, only to find out he was scalping those vegetables I gave him for an absurd price. And the villagers weren't too happy about it. I quickly sold him my blueberries and left, before anyone could get mad at me, too. I took the money to Robin and ordered the cellar, and was absolutely shocked to learn I didn't have to provide all the construction materials, too. I took another look at these powers. That kind of looks like a spring onion. I made a little temporary farm for the powder melons, which wasn't exactly efficient. I'm gonna pretend like I didn't just do that. I started looking what I still needed to ship for the collections. What is this? Egg. I also noticed what looked like caviar appeared to be in the list, notedly next to the duck feather and rabbit's foot, so I assumed it must be dropped by a farm animal, and the only animal I could think that would drop something slimy looking. Do I need to get a slime hutch? So to the desert I went, with hopes of iridium to build one of them hutches. I noticed this weird thing at the entrance to the caverns, but couldn't figure it out just yet. Also, thanks to the comments, I knew the Crusader effect I'd got on the sword kept mummies from reviving. I scored a mystery box and a monster compendium from this slime, which upon reading, gave a permanent small chance of mobs to drop double loot. 1.6 is nifty. I didn't get enough iridium worth even showing, but I did get a new mini shipping bin from Pierre. I went to check on the price of bombs from this dwarf, and decided they were too expensive. But this big stone chest recipe, a must-have. It could apparently hold nearly twice as much stuff, and that sounded useful. Then, as I went to go to the desert, I realized today was the Festival of Ice, so Pam wasn't there to drive me. I popped into the festival, but decided I'd rather get back down to business. I got a new lizard on day 205, Zopeak, actually remembered the animals, and stocked up on more pepper poppers for speed, along with a few life elixirs. At the desert, I bought a lot of desert totems. Hooray! No more waiting on the token alcoholic. I also noticed this quartz for bombs trade I plan to take full advantage of. I went back to the valley to see Clint, because I wanted to get the last two minerals I was missing before I traded all these Omni Boys away in the desert. I managed to get both with 10 geos to spare. Minerals Check. I took one of them totems for a spin, bought 2 artifact troves with the remaining geodes, and drove the bus myself back home. I got 1 new artifact from him, turned it in, and moved a bunch of things around in the museum to try and organize things. I took this new quest from Caroline asking for a shipment of 100 pieces of ginger and grabbed some sleep early so I could get cracking on the morrow. And next morning, I saw these stairs. So now I've got a cellar with casks for aging stuff, like this wine. Then it was caverns time, with what looked like some new floor variants, as well as this little guy who dropped an iridium bar. A whole bar? The luck sharply turned after this, with no ladder popping for a few hours in-game, so I decided to bail with my new bar. I bought my first rabbit, and a new cow and goat, as I'd never sold a small milk of either type. I also messed around with this big tree, but couldn't figure out why my cursor changed over the top of it yet. There was this new worm type that when Doug gave powder melons, and Robin now had this community upgrade option to build Pam a house, but that's expensive. I'd come to check the price of a hutch, and it looks like I need more stone and money. This is when I decided I was tired of being broke. I sold everything. Well, except the pumpkins, hops, and wheat to use with kegs. But basically everything I'd been saving went in this box. My hope was to get a whole lot of money, with which to invest in a strategy to never have to worry about money again. The greenhouse was no exception, where I harvested my first pineapple and sweet gemberries. The description made me think of that statue in the secret woods, and I planned to— I forgot to not sell them. Okay, that's fine. Never mind, that'll have to wait. Is this— I am being forsaken. It sounded kind of like a tree maybe got knocked down. I queued up 1 thing of beer in this new keg on the next day, and decided to take all this money to the scariest place in the game. I saw this prismatic shard trade, and went ahead and traded all my quartz for bombs, before heading into the caverns to hit that 500 stone target. Along the way, I found this secret note from Grandpa, saying he'd left a special secret compendium for me somewhere in the valley. Curious, very curious. There were a couple close calls, but I managed to avoid throwing away any money, and came away with this decent chunk of iridium for my troubles. I was informed about a squid fest starting on day 208, and was reminded of the menace that is crows. I threw some rocks and other things at Robin to get a new slime hutch underway, and the game had mentioned some kind of bookseller thing being here, but despite this very obvious sign, I could only think to check the museum. Guess it is a blind playthrough after all. I checked out this Squidfest thing too, but decided this could wait till tomorrow. At this point, I decided to start using iridium to get more iridium. In other words, I wanted to make more Crystallaria, which would require iridium, to produce gems the desert trader wanted, to buy stuff to make getting iridium easier. I added a scarecrow to this atrocious farm, and tested out this flute block I'd got as a museum reward. I TP'd to the desert trader to check what gems to produce, and resolved to make diamonds, rubies, quartz, emeralds, and jade. And I bought 10 artifact troves before driving myself back home. I saw the gems I didn't want to produce, then I went back because I was confused why I hadn't seen a jade trade. This is when I realized her trades changed throughout the week. I went ahead and bought a few things while I was there, and started production once I was home again. Stone. That's good news. I decided to craft a few tappers for these trees and began to hatch a strategy. I used all the iridium and half the found stone on more Crystallaria and queued up exclusively jade in these 5. I polished off the day purchasing this dwarfish safety manual from the dwarf, which would reduce the amount of damage I take from bombs. I also definitely didn't get distracted and pass out. That'd be ridiculous. Willie asked me to catch him a lingcod, and I harvested a few oak resin from the fledgling orchard. I popped those troves and snagged 3 more artifacts for the museum. Only 6 artifacts to go. Back home, I visited the animals that I constantly ignore. Then I went fishing for squid. I managed to catch all 10 for all the prizes and got all these things from the experience. I read the book immediately for perfection purposes. Marlon dropped by in the morning to give us a slime egg. Probably because I now have this hutch built, baby. Caviar, here we come. Right? I set that egg to incubate in the hutch, harvested from these delightful kegs, and started rearranging them in a way I thought would save time to refill and harvest from. Then I went to do something strange. I spent 100,000 G on copper ore. This was the next stage in my strategy. Everything, and I mean everything, that I needed to make to stop having to worry about money needed copper. Kegs, tappers, mayo machines, you name it. The next problem was wood, but I noticed something crucial, even in winter. This tree fertilizer could help expedite both wood and oak resin production. It only costs stone and fiber, so I got to work on the oak trees immediately. And those fertilizers got to work. Unfortunately, I'd forgotten some of these were hardwood trees. I resolved to fix that later and harvested my first powder melons. I bought more coal to smelt future things, tossed some pumpkins in the kegs, and went to Robin to spend an absolutely disgusting amount of money on wood, and a slightly less disgusting amount of money on stone. I made a few more kegs, and made the large amount of tappers I needed to get this oak resin business roaring. I placed what I could, and chopped what wasn't oak. Then life happened. I think I hear the weather siren outside. That is the biggest storm I have ever seen here. Holy. So I ended that day early. Moments after the game saved and I ended the recording, the power went out. By mere seconds, I had managed to save the footage. Once the real weather was agreeable, I got back to work on the trees on day 212. Placed the kegs I made yesterday, and ran into the issue that I hadn't sold anything yesterday. Pierre helped me out with that, and on the way to Robin's, I noticed there was now a waterfall in the north of the town. I ordered a stable, finally, since the comments were full of people insisting I should have had a horse a long time ago. The storm also reminded me that there was a storm in-game that I'd forgotten about. And it looks like this was the tree that fell. It asked for 100 hardwood to fix up, but I'd quite literally just spent my hardwood. Time to gather that again. I smelted the rest of that copper ore, and then had a very painful realization. The night market. Oh. Not only had that just opened, I had no money to spend. And I'd missed the first night of it due to the storm. I had plans to check out this submarine, but it was too expensive, and I was concerned there might be some fishing things with this that I'd otherwise not be able to do until next year. I followed some directions of a past secret note at the Mermaid show to get a free pearl, but I couldn't sell anything, so I officially had a disaster on my hands. I went home, shipped my treasure chest and pumpkin from my special things chest, and slept very, very worried that night. I started the day tending to the orchard, which I was beginning to pave to hopefully reduce stray seeds from getting in the way of growth. But my mind was on the market. Due to the real-world extreme weather, I decided to make an exception to the golden rule and did a quick Google. There are in fact 3 exclusive fish in this submarine, and we must get them today. I packed everything I had for fishing, bought some of this new deluxe bait from Willie, and with my best stuff in hand, and dish of the sea in my stomach, I reeled in the midnight squid, the blobfish, and the spookfish. Phew! That was close. Submarine fishing? Check. I snagged this artifact while fishing for more, just in case. I headed back up at midnight and checked these shops before leaving. Caviar. What? Okay, rare seed. What a fantastic bailout. 2 things I really needed right here, and I actually had the money to buy them. I suspect the spirits of the real world were in good humor today. The cured roe of a sturgeon fish, considered to be a luxurious delicacy. I completely failed. That was not anything to do with slime. Well, good thing we know now. I turned in the sturgeon roe before I could possibly accidentally sell it. I planted the new rare seed in the greenhouse and greeted the new addition to the farm, Grover. Yeah, this was undeniably fun. I did a little more new tree work with my new buddy overseeing the efforts before we went to go rebuild this tree. Oh, actually I made a home. If I'm capable of this, why is Robin building all the farm buildings? I rode for Robins, who asked me if I had a nice walk. Joke's on you, Robin. I didn't walk, you resource-stealing little mother. More wood I purchased for more tappers and went fishing for Willie's lingcod request. Then I handed him a raw fish in the middle of the saloon. I did a little more fishing, hoping for some algae for another plan I had cooking, before heading home to make a box for saving fish. Turns out most of my special things box was actually just fish anyway. More tappers! The trees were looking good on day 215, so why not do some more? I planted every single tree seed that I had to create a massive amount of wood. I had to cut down the outside fruit trees to make room, and was shocked to learn they dropped their respective saplings. I crafted as much tree fertilizer as I could, but it wasn't nearly enough. Gus asked me for a coconut, and a raccoon thing moved into this tree house with a request for these things. Sure, okay. Guess I'll start baiting these traps again. I went to get Gus's coconut on day 216, and I began the project of figuring out what items were available on what days from the desert trader and from Sandy's shop, because I was really hoping somebody would sell tree fertilizer. I also chopped the trees down here for a little extra wood. I bought even more resources from Robin, this time stone, so I could make more tree fertilizer. I went to Clint's to process more mystery boxes. I just got 2 mystery boxes out of a mystery box? Okay, that is weird. I ended up getting a lot of useful things out of these, and I brought Gus's coconut. I TP'd back to the desert, spent some gems how I could, and came back home. Because I was honestly just enjoying flexing my totems. It made me feel powerful. Then I went back to the desert, and did a proper caverns run. I had a chest level with 2 iridium bars in it, and I carved myself a nice spot to sleep for the night. We're gonna sleep next to the algae. Linus found us on level 55. Thanks, buddy. The small milks are ready to go, because the new animals hated me. Yay. The spirits were very displeased today, but I didn't really care. I did a little trading, learned Sandy sells ice cream on Sundays. Sunday. I went to the caverns again to find out just how displeased those spirits really were. I got a slayer goal for these things, a secret note about feeding raisins to Junimos, and even there's a pink cake in that slime. What? But considering I only made it to level 25, I suspected the spirits really were quite upsetty spaghetti today. I did at least get some new copper, one new Crystallarium, and a new dino baby named Lem. Lemme. The spirits were very displeased again on day 218, so what better day to process some geodes and go back to Skull Cavern, right? I did find that artifact I'd lost a while back, and got an interesting reward. Magic rock candy? Yeah, we definitely gotta get more of that. I also, for some reason, repurchased this book from the dwarf and read it again. I didn't get a you learned a new power notification. I'm such a little peanut sometimes, I swear. Sandy's Monday item was coconuts, and the trader's was hay. The caverns definitely felt displeased, as it were, but I made the best of it. I'd rather just be a healthy man. And you know what healthy men do, we just chug ice cream by the cone. I also jump in random holes, that's a good way to strengthen your knees. Become one with the earth. I found carrot seeds down here, and had a little nap with this guy. But I came away pretty good with the ore this time. Take that, spirits. Also, look at the trees. I did a little more work on them, dropped off a gift to Leah for her birthday, and magically disappeared immediately afterwards. Wait, Leah? Nah, I'm sticking with Leah this time. Sandy still didn't have tree fertilizer, but the trader had something close. Fiber for stone. So now I could just keep mining, and eventually get all the tree fertilizer I needed. That's close enough for government work, baby. Let's grab some stone. I snagged a new artifact while I was back in the valley, and then converted all my stone into fiber, because I need them trees to grow. Then I went back to get more stone. I had this really lucky chest room with 5 mega bombs, and one of these crabs dropped a lucky ring. Plus 1 luck sounds good to me. I'd been told it was a very happy day, and I was feeling it. I also managed to snag the monster goal for these little iridium impersonating fiends, and the iridium grind was getting good. I may have just... Yep. Spicy nap time. Marlin found me this time, so I don't even think I lost money for that one. Ken sent us a bomb in the mail again, and I made a whole bunch of tree fertilizer. Poco joined the ranks of the lizards, and all this pumpkin juice was ready to go, so I started making more. I went into the cellar and saw this silver star on the cask, so I knew what I had to do. Upon placing it in the dilapidated Joja, this cute little Junimo waved goodbye and exploded into a bunch of stars. Something good will happen soon. Okay, thanks for the reassurance. Cool, look forward to knowing what that is. Back to them caverns, baby. Sandy sells exactly 3 Omni Geodes on Wednesdays, and the trader does cloth, weirdly enough. I went back to the valley because I had an overflowing inventory, and look how much this pumpkin juice sells for. I noticed the sign this time and found this guy's bookshop. There were lots of useful books in here, but I had to choose. I ended up buying this one that boosted move speed, this one which shows the sell value of things permanently, this one which makes horses go faster, and this one which gives some experience in each skill. I was hoping I'd finally get the push over level 10 fishing, to be honest. Back home, I got to fertilizing trees because I really needed that wood to make all this effort pay off. And when that ran out, I did some smelting. And that night, the lone Junimo did some overnight work. Day 221 was the valley's version of Christmas again, and my person to gift was Emily. So I gave the gift that started it all so many days ago. Then Evelyn gave us some cookies, which was adorable. Once that was over, it was now magically 10 p.m. and I went to see what that Joja business was all about. What? Movies? It's a movie theater now? Yeah, that was a surprise. I was so baffled by this that I got up to my old tricks next morning. No way, dude, no. Whoa. I was quick thinking enough to save the trophy, but that bee house and broken capsule are gone for good. I really need to stop putting my bombs in the slot I usually have coffee. Pam sent us a letter. Pam, you sent me a battery again, huh? Okay, you better not ask for this in 5 days. I bought my first movie ticket and learned I could get a second one to invite somebody with me. Perfect. A new opportunity to be a terrible person. I scored a new achievement for seeing a movie upon entering, and noticed I could order my friend a whole meal for the movie. I got her the most natural looking kind of option and walked in to watch this thing. It was a cute vibe, and Leah enjoyed her salad. After it was over, 0 time had actually passed, which was astonishing. I've managed to score an extra heart with her doing this, and you know what that means. Introducing significant other number 4. Yup, I'm a terrible person. Truly awful. The worst. Let's mine some more. I got another Monster Slayer goal, but had an otherwise uneventful day in the caverns of accidentally getting hit by my own bombs. I made this mining day chest here next to my bed and decided I needed some more quick cash. I sold all these unprocessed animal products and these to buy a whole lot of iron ore. and a new mass smelting project began, along with a desperate attempt to get more fiber in the mines, which netted me a little extra copper too, and of course, a nice nap with my bug friends. I only managed a measly 37 fiber, so I won't be doing that again. I spent all the money I had for the day on this small amount of wood and smelted the day away. I put 8 more kegs down with that wood and filled my first shed finally. I was low on pumpkins, so I went for pale ale, and decided to start having a keg outside each shed to know when the ones inside were done. I also made a couple of Crystalarium and realized my limiting factor was now gold of all things. Also, this little guy exists now, and I started making him a blue friend. And I went to top off my coal in this section of the mines and got the Slayer goal for bats. With these last minute tasks complete, winter and year 2 were suddenly over. Then the fabled meeting took place. This touching reunion was a posthumous passing of the torch of Chess Farm forevermore. But I got this feeling that there was more to the story of why this had happened. Then Leah showed up seconds later to invite me to her art show. Excuse me, Leah, I'm trying to have a moment here, okay? Those candles gave me this. Statue of Perfection? What is this? I wasn't sure quite yet, but look at these trees. The wood was at hand, baby. 56 more kegs. Oh yeah, it's happening now. I thought perhaps the year 3 thing might involve this immovable boulder, yet still nothing. It kind of looks like it's off, you know? It looks like it's not lit up or something. I decided to leave it out overnight because lots of cool things happen overnight in this game. And next morning, it gave me 8 iridium ore? What is happening? I'm so lost. The animals hated me at this point, but at least they could come outside again. I was also getting moss while collecting the oak resin, and the pale ale was ready to rotate in both sheds now. I chose to trim down the oak trees to here and keep this section producing ongoing. I planted the few acorns I'd missed, finished off the second shed's keg count, and started working on making sure every oak tree had a tapper on it, and paving stuff between the trees to hopefully keep it nice and clean. This was surprisingly difficult considering the, trees in the way. I spent basically all of day 227 desperately trying to pave the area between these trees. But I can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, so it wasn't really working. I spent a little bit of time setting up a tiny farm where there weren't already trees in the way. I also had a little fun harvesting the kegs as they were finishing, thanks to being able to hear the outside kegs. I TP'd to the desert next morning to grab a piece of magic rock candy from the trader. This trade is gonna be useful. Sandy's Thursday thing was deluxe speed grow at a low price of 83. And so it was time to never have to worry about fertilizer again. Then I decided the tropics were calling my name. Whoa! Reached Ginger Island? A couple achievements got added for things I'd already done, and this was one of them. These worms dropped a surprise. Jack be nimble, Jack be thick. Gain +1 defense. I'll be thick. Yeah, I'm thick, baby. Then in the west, I said, what am I doing? This was my painful realization that I could have just come here for fiber and wood all winter long. I'm stunned by my stupidity. I went walnut hunting, which was why I'd come here, and stumbled into this room. It was a musical memory game, which I definitely didn't fail twice. I have a great memory, I swear. So on my first try, I earned 3 walnuts from this dude. I also found a weird little secret path to the east of that, and snagged a 5th nut for the day. And now that I had so many, I made a purchase. With that flurry of parrots, a shipping bin and this new home away from home was open for business. And for the first time ever, I awoke in a different home. The nut hunting was paused when I encountered this big frog in the cave, who asked us to...
You must grow for me that sweet delight which is both pink and juicy.
Are you talking about melons? Frogs only want one thing, and it's disgusting. In the East Jungle, I noticed a correlation between this, and stumbled into this area with 4 pedestals and some kind of riddle. I had no idea for this one, but I figured dark clouds cry meant I had to come back when it was raining. This guy existed now, but the price was so high. Maybe those kegs will save the day? I took the time to finally count the number of these pink flowers on the island and found this interesting note about the forge along the way. I whiffed on the count apparently, so I had to wait till tomorrow to try again. So on the next day, I guessed 1 higher, and the guy literally spawned 1 in to make it right. Cheeky bass, you largemouth bass. And now he wanted me to count starfish. Fine. I found a couple nuts in the ground during the count and got the count right this time. That seemed to be the end of the counting shenanigans, so I went to the volcano to hopefully find some more walnuts, as I was out of ideas. I found this nifty ring, and this thing did drop a nut. Perhaps it's 5 nutty stone per day in Fire Mountain. I started looking at the map and realized this boat was accessible. A nut. That's fair. I still couldn't go east yet, so I purchased this Parrot Express thing, hoping for access, but alas, it only took me to places I had already been. I decided to head home to get fishing equipment, since I hadn't really done much of that here yet, and grabbed this potato keg quest from Pam. Before bed, I threw coconuts and ginger in kegs to make what I assumed would be coconut wine and ginger ale, and I definitely made it to bed. I harvested the first run of spring crops next morning and planted some potatoes for Pam. I got to work expanding farmland where trees weren't in the way, but I had a sprinkler problem. I put down the rest of my garlic and potato seeds and set to work. It was Sunday, so I bought as many staircases as I could because I needed to go mining. I also bought as many bombs as I could because now I need more stone, more copper, more iron, and more gold. The spirits were mildly perturbed, and to be fair, so was I at this point, so I decided we could be perturbed together. With all the last minute equipment in hand, I dove in to make my own luck. This time, I was able to save all the iron and gold ore, seeing as I'd already bought so many bombs. I ignored most of every level, trying to get as far down as possible early on, which meant skipping some levels if they just didn't look good. By 3 p.m., I was already down to level 53. The spirits kept it spicy every now and then, but there were ample rewards for the danger. We're getting into the good stuff now, baby. I even got an auto grabber and a chest level, but it was still quite spicy. Right, okay, alright, okay, I see a lot. Not today! Oh, it might be today. Hold on, wait. Ooh, and a hole. Level 90 plus 6 equals 96. 96. Wait a second. Time out. Whoa. Yeah, it was a lot. She left us some burgers on level 100. Okay, just as I was running out of bombs, I found this turban I couldn't carry, but I could wear. The moment I put this thing on, my luck finally ran out. Oh yeah. Oh no! Oops, guess that's the end of that run. But hey, look at all this loot. I spent day 233 smelting the ores, fertilizing trees, clearing out the extra stuff, watching slimes do whatever that is. I bought what little coal I could and managed to smelt everything except the iridium. I did a trader run for fiver, got a new dino named Canoe, and then I stumbled into the village where Leah was having an art show in the rain. The first was just an unnamed sculpture of a woman, but this one's called Post-Dimensional Null Space. Leah also announced we were special friends, and I could feel the glares from you and you and you. Anyway, I patched in some sprinklers for the starter farm, read this book while trying to manage the oak orchard, and got so frustrated with this orchard. It had these random blockages I couldn't see in it, keeping me from putting more tappers on the trees. I made an executive decision on day 234 and chose violence. I had enough oak resin for now, and I was gonna need all this wood anyway. I cleaned this thing up all nice and pretty-like, got all the pathways arranged, and planted all the acorns for Oak Resin Orchard 2.0. Before sleep, I sold the rabbit's foot for the collections, and determined I would need to make 26 more tappers to have one for every tree. I grabbed my new ginger juice on the next day, guess that doesn't make ginger ale, along with some potato juice and garlic juice. Let's not think about how terrible those sound. I got an extra copy of this thick book, so I gave it to the bookseller in exchange for stuffing, apparently. I started doing the whole harvesting and replanting thing again finally, even if it was still a bit of a small farm at the moment. The greenhouse had flourished in my absence, so this was all gonna go in kegs too. I started working on making more pineapple seeds for hopefully a flourishing island farm, and sold my first cherry ever. Day 235, first cherry, that's gotta be a world record, right? I also decided to clear out the areas of the farm that required destroying some trees, because whatever at this point. I tried making squid ink with a squid and an oil maker, but nah, that ain't it. And I went ahead and picked up every tree seed that hadn't sprouted yet, because whatever at this point. Grow faster or you're getting uprooted, tree boys. I chopped trees, shook trees, harvested potatoes, replanted a bunch of things, and even queued a bunch of dino mayo in the morning, and spent the rest of the day trying different fishing spots on Ginger Island. I got this lionfish early on, and surmised these 7 spots were the island fish, since a journal scrap had mentioned something about stingrays, I think. This lake gave me 2 walnuts, a blue discus, and a new power book. The river gave me a river jelly, of which there appeared to be more variants. The south shore tossed me another 2 nuts, a flounder, and some roe, thanks to that book from earlier. Perhaps we could get sturgeon roe like this for more caviar? I found this secret path and got the 5th nut of the day, and I tried this cave spot for fishing, but didn't come up with with anything extra. And finally, P. Snail hit us with a hint that to get more fossil for him, I'd have to pan. Oh yeah, that exists. Okay, sure. I banished more trees, harvested crops, and set up some more farm space on day 237, and made use of it immediately. That coconut wine I'd made had finished. Does anybody want this? Does anybody want coconut wine? Probably not. I planted those fruit saplings in the greenhouse so I could hopefully make wine out of some more appealing fruits, and rode south by night to grab some spring onions in case I needed those for something. Then I got hit with a new surprise. Tomorrow begins a 3-day festival in the Calico desert. More of the farm trees were vanquished, and the farm was thusly expanded again. I gave Haley her best birthday gift ever, and had to break the news to Emily that I would also be dating her sister now. Well, that's number 5. I'm gonna lose track at this rate. I bought the fish smoker recipe from Willie to hopefully help out the raccoon friend, but the crafting cost was steep, but also insightful. Those are the 3 variants right there. I stopped by the traveling cart. This snail is suspicious. It honestly was, because why is it called a fish? I spent the rest of the evening clearing out Cindersap Forest and found this. Yo, what? Yo! Only a master of the 5 ways may enter here. 4 out of 5. We gotta fish more. Then me and Grover had a little nature nap. You know the drill with the trees, yeah? Salmonberry season had begun, which just sounded like more wine to me. I harvested this sweet gemberry, which I didn't sell this time. It was festival time though, so I TP'd to make up for lost time. This was a shockingly large event. This guy had an animal race going on, and I was allowed to guess the winner for a chance at a prize, so of course I guessed this fabulous speed rooster would win, and he did, just like any fabulous rooster should. I received 20 calico eggs for this, which I later learned was the exclusive currency of this event. But first, are you ready to welcome a new cactus into your life? I am. Oh, good lord. I won't say why, but this is the one perfect match for you. So how's your little guy doing? It's doing great. Thank you for my cactus. What is this, bro? I decided this was a good chance to give the townsfolk gifts. So basically everyone got a spicy eel for lunch. Sandy gave me a makeover in this cardboard box, which was really just her giving me a Luigi outfit, but it was too late in the game to be changing outfits now. There were some shops from the villagers with strange items, and this really creepy looking chef who used a pickaxe to make me some nachos. There were actually a lot of recipes to choose from, and the effects stacked on top of the existing food and drink effects I had going. There were more shops, and this scholar whose quiz I failed because I couldn't remember how much a cow cost. Gil and Marlin had challenges and rewards for spelunking in a revamped skull cavern, but I wasn't quite prepared to do this. Apparently I could find eggs down there, and they would be more plentiful the deeper I went. Sounds familiar. This was just a little too much at the moment, so I went home with hopes to prepare for the second day of it. And by prepare, I meant sell everything I could to be able to buy bombs for the augmented caverns run. I bought those bombs the next day and went back to the desert, where I acquired some spicy tacos, which upped my speed and defense, and took a cavern challenge to reach level 30. With this speed, that was a cinch. I had this little egg indicator, and getting deeper, or sometimes by interacting with these statues, would increase the number. Sometimes those statues did bad things though. Mummies have become angry. Oh, God, they sure are angry! I got this red slime egg and 2 iridium bars from chest levels, and the experience overall was nifty. But the eggs essentially just watered down the amount of other things I could get, like iridium for example. And there was no shop to spend the eggs at when I emerged, which is probably because it was 1:50 in the morning, but still. I fertilized more trees, what a surprise, right? And went to the desert to spend all these eggs. I learned meat existed from Pam's shop, and failed this guy's quiz again because I had no idea how many garbage cans were in town. Why would I know that? And Gil and Marlin had no rewards for the quest I took yesterday because it was a brand new day. Wow. In the end, I spent all my eggs on mystery boxes from this dude and went home a confused man again. I brought all my boxes and troves to Clint to pop and got this new book, an ancient drum, some sweet treasure, an arrowhead, an ancient drum, and this new ancient drum. I ended up with a total of 15 bombs from the boxes, which was a really nice rebate for my efforts, along with all this stuff. Then it was time to hit the books. There was one more legendary fish, and I needed a refresher. Its name was Legend. It lived in a log in the mountain lake, and it only came out in spring rain. It wasn't raining today, so I went to work on farm things, checking sell values of different wines, and hoping dearly I'd get some more rain before spring ended. There was no rain on day 242, so I checked on those artifacts, and I was apparently down to only 2 more. Bye trees. Hello flowers. Remember that algae I said I had a plan for on day 14? I used it today to get my very first fish pond. I didn't know then quite how badly I needed this, but at this point, I knew I'd have to get caviar again somehow. I bought more Clint from Cole to ore some more smelts, and went to ask Potato about the Pam juice. Wait. Aw, shit. That was a timed quest, wasn't it? Whoops. I cannot believe I have done this. I smelted more copper and iridium and took some pictures with these cows. And I guess also Haley, who was actually having some character development finally. I went to the island, caught my first sea jelly, and tried to fish into this cave to catch a cave jelly, but had no luck. Well, not no luck, but you know. I tried to fish in this little trickle of water, but no dice. I tried fishing in this little spot in the volcano, as well as the caldera, but nothing. It did kind of look like there was something I was supposed to do here though. Then, only after all this buffoonery, that I remembered this journal scrap, which mentioned a cave in the southeast, the only portion of this island I still couldn't figure out how to get to. One of the other scraps reminded me to check this, and then I found that cave spot I was thinking of on the map. My only leads at this point were repairing the resort and those weird dark clouds cry pedestals. Man, this fish business was stressing me out. Look how many I still don't have. On day 243, it still wasn't raining, but in my desperation, I scanned the crafting options and finally remembered that this thing exists. So after some dino mayo gathering, iridium smelting, and good old tree chopping, I made the only one I could make and prayed for rain the Stardew way. I made one column of the perma orchard into pine trees instead, since pine tar was the ingredient I'd need more of, and planted a bunch of rice. Then I went to Ginger Island, where dark clouds were crying, and in the north, this bird dropped a ruby. Oh, so that's why a bird dropped topaz before. So that south one must be topaz. I decided to go ahead and plant some of the taro tubers here, and fished in the ocean till I had to head home for tomorrow's incoming rain. I also made a couple trap bobbers for it last minute. The blessed rain fell on spring 20, and the very first thing I did was ride for the mountains. Thar be the hollow log. Now where to cast from? With this dish in my gullet and this rod and tackle, I started from this spot. This didn't quite feel close enough though, so I tried here instead, but this didn't feel close enough either. Then I tried standing here. Ooh, there she is. We've hooked her. And it was a tough fight. I nearly lost her halfway through, but eventually, this is what it all amounts to! The legend, it's just a fat bass! Legendary fish? Check. I went to the desert to catch my first sandfish, since the one I'd used for the community center had been from a traveling cart. And look at all this iridium! I chopped more trees and tested this fish pond, learning I can only have one species of fish in it at a time, and that roe can't be used or hatched in it. So I planned on using this for sturgeon whenever I got one. Finally, I decided to let some of these trees go, so I could start carving up the land early for the upcoming farm. But I didn't have enough iron or gold for the sprinklers. That'd have to wait, because today was a day for very much confusion. I used my Fern Island totem to see some crying skies once again, only to encounter a different gem bird in the south. Needless to say, this confused me greatly. I found this while ruminating, but my theory was that this gem bird had come from the east, since I couldn't access the east yet. I went around trying to pan for fossils, and managed to snag this one. Then P. Snail suggested I go fishing, but I had a feeling he was referring to fishing in a cave that I couldn't reach yet. I tried this cave just in case, but no. I tried next to the boat, but no. I tried fishing this little thing, but no. I decided to concede for the day, and see if I could just mine up the remaining gems, topaz and amethyst, because I thought I'd seen a bird that looked like these gem birds that was purple somewhere else. And in fact, I had, every time I launched the game. The only gem I managed to find, though, was aquamarine. The next day, I finished off the iridium smelting, snagged the fifth and final cockle for the raccoon friend, and headed back to a rainy isle once again, where I found an amethyst bird in the east. I'd nailed the amethyst part, but now I was flabbergasted, because I was sure I'd seen a topaz and an emerald one in the south. I'm super confused right now. I'm super lost. I went to the caverns to hopefully mine up some topaz and got really lucky on level 8. I changed totems to get back to Willy and gave the topaz a whirl, but neither orientation worked. I decided to just go home and work on the farm and think. I gave the raccoon his cockles and gave this guy a sweet gemberry. Oh! Okay, nice. Haven't found one of those in a while. A win is a win. Let's sleep on that. And the sleep helped because I had a plan on day 247. My thought process was, since I'd got that achievement for going there for the first time, the gem bird thing had probably been reset, and that there were more than 4 types of gem birds. Since I knew what 3 of them were, I could probably just try the other gems besides topaz in that last slot. And when I tried aquamarine, whoa! Okay. Alright, success. Take that, weird reset thingy. Except, this still wasn't a path to the east, so my last guess was now the resort. Or maybe this thing? I found this scrap with info on forge enchantments, and Snail said that the bat fossil was probably in the Volcano cave. But I'd had enough of Ginger Island shenanigans for one spring, I needed to make sprinklers. So during some gold mining, this thing dropped squid ink, which only pushed my confused brain to the edge, so I went home. I sold that ink for the collections, harvested a whole bunch of wine, and harvested all my fruits to to sync these kegs up for winemaking, even my extra ones. I harvested all the stuff, save the rice, from the soon-to-be great farm, and bought a whole bunch of starfruit seeds from Sandy. Then I started doing a little math. I was 35 sprinklers short on the farm size I had currently, and gold was the problem. But 35 ingots times 5 ore per is just 175 ore. If I focus the bottom sections of the mines, could I get that much in time for summer day 1? So I grabbed my furnaces and got to work. I used cherry bombs I didn't want to use for Skull Cavern and smelted along the way. I found some nifty seeds at one point, more squid ink, and even a strange bun. But it was mostly just a lot of booms. I placed the 19 I could make from yesterday's run on the farm, and with another day of just iron and gold mining, I polished off the rest by night. I had a bit of a spring clean on 251, where I put the TV by the door so I could stop constantly forgetting it, moved these back into the animal buildings, having them in a separate shed just wasn't working. Moved this big shed up here for more keg space, and a few other little things. The comments suggest that I go fishing in this place. Yeah, there's some white salmon. There it was this whole time. And after doing a little extra fishing, I got this notification. I took another comments section recommendation to break these bad boys out for tree fertilizer, and I sold a whole lot of stuff, including reluctantly these 85 iridium bars for seed money. During the move, I took the big chest out for a spin. Hot diggity dang, man, that's a whole lot of space. Oh, Lord. And overnight, the gamer dreams returned, and I became a master of the 5 ways. Look at this money. I bought a ridiculous amount of starfruit seeds first, then went to check out this door. The room was something Grandpa had left me, with a whole lot of new recipes and perks I could acquire so long as I pursued this mastery thing, which I learned soon after is accrued by doing any of the 5 ways. This plump little guy wanted a smallmouth bass, but I didn't have one. I harvested all the rice to clear up the farm, and hid it away in this chest of things I was hiding from myself in case I needed these things later. I started using the fertilizer the bones were making on the orchard and started getting into the habit of harvesting this greenhouse for stuff to keg and storing it in the new fancy big stone chest. There we go, yeah. Get on over there. Yeah, look at that, that was great, I loved that! I spent the rest of the day trying to pre-hoe the farm for summer's big planting, and trying to pickle cauliflower, because despite how disgusting that sounds, cauliflower juice is the only thing that sounds worse than pickled cauliflower. That pre-hoeing was basically useless, turns out. I spent the day tending to the now messy farm, and noticed that the paved part didn't get messed up. I bought a bunch of melon seeds, retrieved these crab pots, and didn't start working on actually re-hoeing the farm until 4 p.m., which was a huge mistake. That meant I couldn't start fertilizing until 9 p.m. and I couldn't even start planting until 12:20 a.m. Oh man, I got a bunch, but I did not get it all. And look, it isn't even watered. Some farmer I am. I atoned for my sins in the next day's rain, hoping that this would be okay, because 75% of 13 is 9 point something. If the luck speed grow rounds down, then I still had the full 27 days to achieve 3 harvests, maybe. I started throwing the tappers on the new trees and discussed an idea. Works in streams, lakes, and the ocean. Not just the ocean. So that's probably where I'm supposed to get the snail. And yes, I forgot to bait them. I'm a peanut. The Ginger Island crops didn't die on season change, so I planted a whole bunch of melons and other stuff without any plans for sprinklers just yet. This is when I learned you can fertilize post-plant now? Gotta love 1.6. I tried fishing near ancient bones again, and came up with a new catch. Then I mined the bones for more fertilizer production, and had a nap with Snail. Oh, we wake up here, which was perfect because I was able to get straight to the beach for octopus fishing. I encountered it twice back to back, but it was fearsome. Tomorrow then. Also, the ground becomes unpaved randomly. Devilish. Then I came up with this foolproof plan. Okay, I got this row, which I think I'll plant. I may or may not have been having a bit too much of this stuff right here. I decided to start aging the ancient fruit wine. Got one shed going for wine, and a mix of wine and juices in the other. Oh, these weren't baited, were they? I decided to complete this offer in the witch's hut since I thought it might later unlock some new, more useful options later, and had a little nap in the cave. The broadcast that I'd been recollecting came on again on day 256. I'd remembered the octopus part, but this Dorado I'd completely missed. I also realized with those 2 new midnight carp, I could make this. It didn't stack with Dish of the Sea, but it was still strictly better. I whiffed on my first attempt, but just before morning's end, I hooked her again. This one was a battle. Every time I moved, that octopus did the opposite. And the pudding buff had run out, so I was on my own. But with some patience, whoo, yeah, buddy, octopus. Then onto the river, I started hunting for, oh. That was my actual first try. At least I did something in this game on my first try. I bought some crab pots to look for more snail tier fish in different places, like here. The first monster showed up on the farm that night, and one measly slime may not be much, but just wait. Just before bed, I just so happened to check the weather. There appears to be some kind of anomalous reading. I don't know what this means. What do you mean you don't know what this means? And the next day, the rain is green. And that wasn't even the half of it. There were fiber plants everywhere. Many trees had been converted into this strange alternate tree type. The TV programs were just green static. These massive fiddlehead ferns just existed, and these trees just grew everywhere. The villagers had opinions about this, including this rather ominous one from Pam. I stopped by Pierre's to grab some summer flower seeds and this dehydrator recipe, and he told me the rain was toxic. Great. The Robin Demetrius household had little insight to add, so I just went and chopped everything I could. I also caught my first fish snail and decided to do a little fishing just in case there was like a rare green rain only fish. But no. Nature is a powerful force, not to be trifled with. Did I do something? Was I trifling? You know, maybe breaking the magic seal around the farm might have been trifling, especially since there were a lot more mobs today. The next day, I saw I'd missed a spot with the scarecrows, and I saw that the trees that had been converted had gone back to normal. That was such a weird thing that just happened to me. I'd ended up with these, which I presumed would help grow that alternate tree type more permanently, along with all this wood, fiber, and even ferns. I got my first summer squash, which was apparently a persistent plant, pickled some more cauliflower, and hid the ferns and squash for myself, just in case. I planted every seed I still had that could grow in summer on the Ginger Island farm, and came home to craft all the iridium scarecrows I could ever need. No crows allowed. I was actually getting recipes thanks to the TV's new position. I'd started harvesting the greenhouse about once every 3 days, and today was greenhouse day. I decided these coffee beans had to go because more ancient fruit was more important. I planted some green beans and squash on the island because I wanted to test the limits of this farm, and placed down some scarecrows, scare parrots, just in case. I also tossed down some crab pots, just in case. You may see a pattern developing here. Then I decided to jump in this volcano again, living purely off the local shrooms, and picking up dragon teeth. I also got this cryptic message that seemed to have something to do with communing with a mermaid on a rainy day via flute and drum blocks. I got a nut by slapping a fireboy, and made it all the way back to this dwarf, who was now selling a new book. I bought a bunch of super meals from him to help with speed, and I started mining the ores along the way. And of course, I took a nap with my flame friend. I manually watered the farm away from farm when I woke, and when I got home, the OG farm was looking fantastic. I grabbed my bombs, crafted an island totem with one of those teeth, and harvested all this juice early for a little extra cash from Pierre. From there, I TP'd to the desert to buy 2 spicy eels, then TP'd back to the island to get down to business. Oh, walnut! Yes! 4 more till I get my 3. This was working. I ended up getting a total of 4 today, along with ores, stone, and shards. Clearly this is where I needed to be. I started making a habit of watering the island farm, and started trying to give gifts to Elliot and Penny. The conglomerate must expand. The orchard was almost done, again, and I sold 1 of each of these new things for the collections. The comments suggested I return to the sewers to talk with this thing, which would apparently help me reselect my level 5 and 10 specializations within 1 of the 5 ways. I also proceeded to make flute and drum blocks for the cryptic note, but I had no fiber. I'd wasted all that green rain fiber on the scarecrows I wasn't even using, so that became a project. I also started making island totems with the teeth I was getting from volcano trips to save a little bit of time, and by night, I started setting up the farm to accommodate persistent plants and sprinklers, like these rows of coffee. That dog statue made me have these dreams again, where I took the comments' advice and picked botanist, which would hopefully help with the inventory management. Big Frogman said I'd planted the right thing, so the melons must have been it. Harvesting these taro roots gave a walnut, so I sold 1 for the collections, and I'm probably gonna hide it from myself just in case. With that walnut, the resort was active, and the path east was opened. I fished in this little spot for a single nut, and found the lone rock from the cryptic note, but didn't find a cave entrance. I assumed the music puzzle would finally give access to the cave, so I'd have to return when it rained. Here's how the walnut grind was going. That thing I missed last year was tomorrow, so I proceeded to hang out in the valley, and realized I'd forgotten to buy more starfruit seeds, so I sang a song. I am a stupid man. I am a stupid fool. I am a big dummy. I did not buy more starfruit seeds. I am a stupid man. Then this happened. Oh my god, what just happened to me? That was the sound of the orchard being set back, actually. Before sleep, I sold pomegranate wine, peach wine, and orange wine. Because why not? Day 263 was Starfruit Harvest Day, and the farming XP from it was enough to push me over the mastery line. Looks like this will come in tiers, and to unlock all the goodness, I'd have to clear all 5 of them. And look at all this starfruit. The plan had been to sell some of this directly to Pierre to buy more seeds, but the luau meant he was closed. So I went to the luau to hopefully sell to him at his seasonal shop, but that didn't work either. Once again, the luau was causing me trouble. I gave the soup a gold star hot pepper, but apparently the governor isn't a fan of spice. You don't like spice, bro? And suddenly, it was 10 p.m. I went ahead and sold the stuff the normal way, and made some high dollar overnight. I picked up all the outside kegs, put one next to the house, since all the sheds would be synced up now anyway, and put the rest in a big shed, and started filling them things up with starfruit, baby. Then I had an interesting idea. I wonder if ancient fruit can grow safely on, what's-its-face? What's-its-face, of course meaning Ginger Island. So after buying a disgusting amount of starfruit seeds again, testing out my new foraging perk, rehoeing the farm, running out of replacement fertilizer, having this realization that I couldn't buy more. Pierre, it's 5. No! After that, yeah, I started working on making as many ancient seeds as I could, and of course, planning all that starfruit. Then I took this thing with me to the island, and went to check on the rainy siren puzzle. But I hadn't left myself any time to solve the puzzle, so I took a wet sand nap instead. I made the farm wet, and got a nut from it on day 265, and I started working on the ancient fruit idea, converting fruit to seeds as I watered. I threw down some chests, and continued to expand ancient stuff where I could, and saw the villagers had begun to enjoy the resort. I gave them super meals, and found out Harvey's favorite thing is super meals. You know, that makes sense. The cryptic note had said some rocks would show up the next day, but I didn't see anything. Rather, it looked like some rocks were missing. It was past 5 p.m., so I mined for bones for fertilizer instead of buying more, and as soon as I TP'd home, what do I got going on? Okay, did somebody just knock over one of my trees? Well, the orchard will get there eventually. Only one tree from my shenanigans remained as of today, and I realized the animals hadn't been getting fed for a long time. And the 10th dino showed up, Sienna. I sold some greenhouse produce to Pierre to buy deluxe speed grow. Pain. Oh, no! I didn't mean to do that! I was trying to... Peanut. I looped that process, this time to buy this new catalog, as well as a bunch of hay for the poor abused animals. Once I'd patched up the fertilizer situation, I grabbed all my ores, made 3 new furnaces, picked up the rest, and spent the rest of the day watering Ginger Farm, converting ancient fruit and pineapples to seeds, and smelting ores along the way. I made the giant frog happy with the melons, and he gave me 5 walnuts. Fair trade. Then he asked for this, which I later worked out was wheat. I harvested these poppies, which dropped 3 walnuts back to back, and spent 5 of my recent bounty on getting my mail delivered here, or doubled here, or maybe it's a dimensional mailbox? Maybe it's an ender chest mailbox. Anyway, the blessed rain had saved me the trouble of watering, so I spent the morning fertilizing what I could. I spent the afternoon working out this puzzle, which eventually made sense. Stones as big as 1s and stones as big as 5s, right? Okay, so if the small stones are 1 and the big stones are 5, this must be a sequence 2, 11, 9, 5, 7. I decided I'd need a total of 6 flute blocks, so the fiber project continued. I accepted this island fishing quest, which curiously only mentioned 3 fish. The comments reminded me that I should be getting my rewards for the Slayer goals, and some of those looked kinda good, especially if I could combine them. This is how those goals were going, by the way. Marlin was selling some other galaxy weapons, so I had a feeling that as a 1.6, I no longer had the best sword, and I practically mortared this quarry when I saw how much had built up in it. And then, the final tree. And the farm is free from the tyranny I enslaved it with when I barked orders, can finally leave it alone and branch out. Sorry. What beautiful tree puns. Don't worry, I won't get sappy on you. I chose my first mastery benefit that night among the fiber gathering, hoping to make that mini forge for combining all the cool rings I now had. I did mostly maintenance on day 268, like animal stuff, harvesting my first spangles, placing 1 new flute block, spending some walnuts to get this bridge built, and volcanoing for ores and walnuts. I very nearly died to not having enough healing items in the beginning. But once I started finding these iridium magma caps, I was good to go. This dude stopped selling super meals, which was an insult, considering that was my backup speed plan. I think I dislike you, sir. Even so, he got my business for these cinder clown shoes I've been saving up for. I'm really gonna jingle from now on. And so I jingled on. And apparently bombing counts for mastery. Tier 2, done. Let's have a fiery nap. I'd gotten this mummified bat in the fire mountain, so I snagged myself a new walnut. I placed the 3rd flute block, Sound familiar? I went back to the valley to buy some wheat seeds, harvested this spot for fiber, had Robin move the old furnace shed to here, you'll never guess why, and had her make it a big shed. I got all the fiber I still needed from the train station, and found out that planted forage also harvests at exclusively iridium now, and apparently, so do truffles. With the resin ores, I made 5 new sprinklers, 20 new kegs, and 10 new tappers. I put the latter 2 down in the valley, and the sprinklers down on the island, along with the wheat and these lovely flute blocks. I knew it was gonna be the mermaid call. I can't say that was a surprise, but it was still cool. Frog Boy told me the wheat was right on day 270, and Mermaid Girl gave me 5 walnuts for the trouble. But that wasn't what I'd been hoping for. I thought she'd show me how to get to the daggum cave. So I went back to the drawing board on that one, but then I saw this board on the ground. Oh, it was right there. Oh, I saw the little thing! Does anyone else smell peanuts? Anyway, the cave. I fished here aggressively, hoping to get a stingray and a cave jelly, and the first was a success. Along with this statue, another decoration out of a lake I see, not a lake, an ocean? Never mind. The cave jelly, however, was nowhere to be found. At this point, all the pieces clicked. Jellies aren't Ginger Island fish, but instead a 1.6 thing. Where better to look for a cave jelly than a big old cave? But I may have lost what was left of my sanity at this point. Where would a man get a cave jelly from? Where would a man have to go to get a cave jelly from? I've tried a couple different caves. Where would a man have to go to get a cave jelly from? Where would a man have to go to get a cave jelly from? Where would a man have to go to get a cave jelly from? Where would it be? Where would a man catch a cave jelly? Except for a cave. Where would a man catch a cave jelly from? Except for a cave. Where would a man catch a cave jelly from? Oh, where would a man? Oh, where would a man catch a cave jelly from? Where would a man? What is that? Oh my God! What's happening? No! What? No! No, but I was on it. Wait. That's no cave jelly. I failed whatever that was again. Then, oh, cave jelly. Where would a man? But on my 3rd try, I landed this lava eel. Well, all right then. Only 6 fish to go now. I made the fish smoker, queued up the flounder, and panic harvested the starfruit at the last minute. Pause. How much is an individual one worth? 3. And sold it at 1:50 a.m. Yes. I want to see this. I gave that smoked flounder to the raccoon, enabling him to find a wife, apparently. I kegged all the kegs again with the 5-pointed fruit, caught my first sturgeon, and tossed it into my fish pond, in which I could seemingly only place 1. I harvested the now summer and spring farm on the island, and with 86 walnuts found, I was getting antsy. I was gandering at the missing things for perfection, and I was getting worried. The annual trout derby began the next day, so of course I fished for some. They occasionally had these golden tags on them to turn in for loot, but the loot felt a bit early game tier, so I took my easy trout and left. I grabbed the foraging mastery recipes to hopefully be able to make those treasure totems for artifact finding. I made the new tree seed from that as well, planted it here, planted maple trees in the orchard just in case I needed Maypal's syrup later, and spent the rest of the day in the volcano, looking for walnuts and dragon teeth. I'd found none of either by level 7, so I called it and bought this fast exit here. I spent the next day chasing snails' bones, firstly by fishing next to these ancient bones more assuredly now having seen the cave, and following this suggestion about snake spines being in the west. I tried shaking every bush in this area, I tried fishing in this little spot, and eventually started losing it again. I've spent the entire day looking for a snake spine, and I don't have one. Oh my God! Is that a snake spine? Snake spine? I ended up finding 2 of these this way. Oh, they both count! Oh, cause it's just the big long spine. And the snake was 3 pieces, so I got 3 mango sapling. Uh-oh, that takes 28 days to mature, and it's day 273. Snailman gave us a final fossil hint, telling us to find golden coconuts. But I had no clue where to get that. I thought perhaps the coconut trees would be the answer, so I chopped every single coconut tree, but found none. This turned out to be a big mistake. Also, the Jojobert's price for the walnuts was much cheaper, and I wasn't quite sure why. The mango tree was officially in action, and Mr. Frogman told me how wheat reminded him of his ex. What?
Wait.
He gave 5 more nuts for this, and then the second blow came. This was clearly garlic, but that's all the way back in spring. In my desperation, I went to the valley, sold some things to Pierre, and grabbed my slingshot. I brought it back to try hitting this thing for a coconut, but alas, the Jojober's price was lower again today, but upon accepting, am I sure about this? If the parrots find all the remaining golden walnuts, I won't have the true Ginger Island experience.
All?
So this seems to be a bit of a cheesy shortcut to receive all the nuts, so I held off for now. I did finally manage to shoot down a walnut though, and then the price was 10,000 G cheaper. I see what's going on here. 34 total walnuts to go, and only 5 more to get in this door. The Jojoberb was becoming difficult to resist. I don't want to not have the true Ginger Island experience. That sounds so sad.
Oh, man. What's a boy to do, man?
With the nuts I had left, I bought this trading hut, where I found the banana sapling. Uh-oh, that also takes 28 days, and I didn't even have the teeth to buy it. I went home and harvested the absolute bounty of starfruit. Perfection may be looking grim, but money? That was happening. Most of day 275 was looking for dragon teeth, but I didn't find any. I did find these broccoli seeds and this journal scrap. I also tested the ring combining at the forge and got this combined ring with the boons of each. Simple, but effective. I like it. The journal scrap led me to a walnut and this ostrich egg buried in the sand. I went home to incubate it, but first, my fish asked me for a diamond. Good thing I was making those. Here you go, little guy. Oh, now the population can increase. Weird, but okay. My incubators were occupied, so I'd have to wait on the egg. But this crabshell ring was about to join the party. I planted some of that broccoli in the greenhouse and grabbed my TV to use on the island. Willie mentioned something cryptic about a special fish in the pools between waterfalls, but I didn't quite work out what that meant. Then, I committed to taking out my frustration with the banana garlic situation on the volcano for a few days, which was a lot easier with the extra 5 defense from the crab ring. The first day of it yielded this golden mystery box, these mermaid boots, 3 dragon teeth, since these apparently could benefit from the forage doubling perk, and this dwarf sword. Day 2 of denial-fueled teeth hunting yielded 0 teeth, but I did combine these 2 rings. Day 3 of the depression-fueled volcano delving yielded 3 teeth, and with that, I had enough to buy the much-needed sapling. I put that one in the ground and went home to try for tree fertilizer for the coconut trees, but noticed the raccoon friend had his wife. Oh, so that's how you do it. I'll be back in a sec. I'm gonna go grab some fish. She sold the new 1.6 seeds, but the original raccoon now needed fruit, including these dried apples. I figured that would need the dehydrator, but I hadn't saved any fire quartz. Clint popped my golden mystery box, only to give me another weird hat, and I grabbed that fire quartz with some elevator shenanigans. I harvested all the starfruit wine, a crisp 144 of it, and dehydrated an apple. 5 apples, apparently. A new lizard hatched. What's up, Lack? That is exactly how I feel. I was having a tough time, okay? I really wanted to finish perfection by 300 days. I couldn't seem to incubate the ostrich egg just yet, despite it seeming to want to interact. But look at all this money. That's the most I've gotten so far for sure. I gave the little guy his waterless apples and bought a couple more books from the bookseller next morning and managed a measly 3 tree fertilizer for the coconut mission. So, without coconuts to look for, I went fishing for extra sturgeon, just in case, and reeled in my penultimate artifact as well. This is also probably a good time to mention I'd had another cheeky Google for the golden coconuts, because I was getting a little desperate. Evidently, I had to shake the trees, not cut them down. Oops. I had Robin upgrade another shed on the last day of summer, and was reaching the acceptance stage of grief around this time. Drying my tears with the hundreds of thousands of G I'd made with starfruit made me feel a whole lot better. Now that I knew it was garlic I was supposed to be hiding from myself, I went ahead and moved all the hidden items back with the rest of the produce. I turned in that artifact, only 1 to go, and used those tear-soaked bills to buy a full stack of deluxe speed grow. I also decided it was time to go for aesthetics. If I'm in this for another 100 days yet, this place ought to look awesome. To that end, I moved the whole farm down to the right and started working on this nice worn pathway to hopefully start giving this place the dignity it deserved. Day 281 was pumpkin time. My math said this was how many pumpkins we needed, and I spent the entire day setting up this 18 by 39 farm for 624 pumpkin seeds. This sturgeon row finished up during the process, and I realized that shape is right there. Oh. So I need to sell roe also. The sturgeon were reproducing successfully as well. Good news. And with a trick I'd worked out regarding holding X and left click at the same time, I placed all 620... well, almost. Zopeek fell asleep on the farm, the rascal, so I couldn't put a seed here. The next morning, I learned that spreading weeds includes random rocks destroying furnaces, apparently. Can you spot where Zopeek slept? I'd never sold a fairy flower, so I decided to grow one of those there instead. And I had some words with Zopeek. Zopeek, you're out of here. Goodbye. That's what you get for sleeping on the farm. I'm the only one that gets to take random naps around here. Oh my god, what is this? Okay, that one was on me. I had Robin upgrade the fourth and final planned keg shed and crafted some sprinklers for Ginger Island, but iron was the new problem. I grabbed a blackberry for the raccoon and kept trying to figure out Willie's waterfall suggestion, but this just wasn't working. I went looking for some other places a waterfall could have been added, and I found this new addition where I caught this thing. That clears up the 1.6 fish, but I wonder what those last 4 are. I'd reached a new level of mastery with the fishing, and this iridium scythe just looked too cool to deny any longer. And look at that harvesting efficiency. Worth. I sold most of the quality crops I had, and started saving only the qualityless ones for possible recipes. I bought more starfruit seeds for a Ginger Island starfruit money farm. I bought 999 copper ore from Clint. I made more weathered floors, and grabbed my furnaces for another Ginger Island multitasking adventure. Do I have enough coal? Oh yeah, that. I bought out on iron ore too, and started spamming these super meals to everyone I came across. Then I threw some stuff away to be able to pay for the ticket because I bought too much iron. I spent the rest of my day smelting, shaking trees, and reworking this farm to start making me some money too. Featuring a short explosive break to get bones for more tree fertilizer, and a fertilizing break that went really well. Oh! Hey, I got one! Ooh. I'm not sure what that owl impression was. Oh, I got one. You could tell I was hyped. I brought it to Clint, but I was actually disappointed to see I got 1 walnut from it, rather than that skull I needed, since I'd probably be getting 6 walnuts from that. I spent the rest of this day too, working on taking control of Ginger Farm, and of course, I smelted a considerable amount. This is what I had by nighttime. I was lamenting my missing 3 walnuts on day 285, but I did accidentally remember Elliot's birthday again. 7 hearts already? Watch out, Elliot. I gave this married man his blackberry jelly. He gave me a book about finding mixed seeds, and then he told me he was gonna start a family. Sounds good, little guy. I made some more sprinklers, and my sturgeon asked for maypal syrup for some reason, but far be it from me to argue. I polished off the tapper crafting for good, and made 37 more kegs for the keg god, and started workshopping the best way to lay them out. I also started trying to figure out what was missing in the collections, and realized this was dried fruits, and this was probably smoked fish, so I got to work on that. The next day, something unexpected happened. Ordered too much for Jody, jeez, man. It's every season. You have a problem. You need to get some help. I sold that smoked fish and dried fruits I mentioned, bought some more iron, once again failing to save enough for a boat ride, and went to work on Ginger Farm again. I got things arranged pretty well, but then... I'm such a goober, man. Gus had a little shop going here with this shocking mango wine and a recipe I threw stuff away just to make sure I could acquire. And I spent the rest of the night trying to retame the farm. I finished fertilizing every coconut tree on day 287, but had yet to get a new coconut for the final pea snail bone, so I went home and threw food at some of the bachelors of the valley. And it was keg day! And look, I made caviar for real. I spent the rest of the day rearranging the kegs for their new big shed life, but I got so fixated on it that I didn't quite fill them all. Kegs desynced, I placed and filled the rest, and went to Robin's to order my first meal. I thought maybe I'd need rice for recipes, so, you know, just in case. Also, the botanist perk works on bushberries too. I got a couple lucky lunches from this golden mystery box I'd gotten from a coconut tree, and bought a sickening amount of iron ore, and a slightly less nauseating amount of coal to go with it. And I went back islanding to begin the grind, but I found this lovely thing early on. I immediately started home, but noticed it was apparently girls' day at the beach. So I gave them all food, as one does when they see a gaggle of gals on the beach. Then I made it to Clint's. Please? Yes! Oh, we're gonna get the walnuts. And I took it straight back. Check it out. Snail and I admired my work, despite how freaky it looks, and he thanked me by teaching me how to craft ostrich incubator. There it is! There it is! Farewell, Watson. Hey, You owe me 6 walnuts. Don't leave. I got an extra banana sapling too, go figure. But it was time. And who else would be behind a door like this but Mr. Chi? He told me I was special. You got a very special energy. My mom always said I was special. But now, Chi threw down the gauntlet. The challenge had begun. He had his own quest board of sorts, with the rewards as his exclusive currency, Chi gems, which were apparently highly radioactive. They could be spent at this shop, full of strange and fantastic rewards. But most importantly, the answer to the question I'd been wondering for so long: what is perfection? Yeah, see? Wow, we are not even close. And you know, that was bittersweet. At least I had no reason to be depressed about bananas anymore. I furiously took notes in hopes that I could keep track of all these lovely goals, and I chose this quest about chi beans, thinking all my efforts towards farm making could finally pay off if I just grew the beans and made seeds from them. I planted my second banana tree and did what I could to sort this farm for starfruit and chi beans. I got a suspicious letter the next day from this guy named Fizz. That name makes sense considering how much Joja Cola I've been seeing. Apparently I was supposed to meet him in a watery cave. And also, Jody. I checked this cave first, but no dice. Though I did notice a little patch here with a walnut in it. Then I checked this cave, where this really creepy guy was selling papers to purchase 1% of perfection for 500,000 G apiece. Joja was back at it again, trying to take away experiences in exchange for money. No thanks. I headed home, unsure of which day the pumpkins would actually mature, and got some easy iridium blackberries because why not? Then I tried to give Jazz a super meal. Oh my god. But accidentally gave her my last Ginger Island totem. Oopsie. I went ahead and made as many new kegs as I could, with the limiting factor after everything somehow being wood again. Too bad, because we need money if we're gonna make all of these things. And the gold clock is 10 million G. I checked in on the Slayer goals and got this immunity to slimes ring from Gil. I went deep in the mines to confirm that these were the void spirits mentioned on the list, and I found my very first chi beans down there too. And last minute, I snagged this book from Marlon's back room. And on the 10th, it was pumpkin day, and this iridium scythe was putting in work. Then I said this: welcome to the team, give me your juice. Look at all those pumpkins. Please ignore the fairy plant that hadn't grown up yet. You see nothing. I'd recalled juicing was faster than whining, so I set the recently crafted kegs to work, hoping to sync them back up on the back end. At this point, I noticed this kind of looked like a cup of tea, and this must be a radioactive bar. Those had been in crafting recipes in Chi's shop, so I suspected I'd have to smelt the chi gems at some point. I gave my new mill all the unmilled rice I had, and fair warning, I'd just been incubating slime eggs whenever I remembered, and it looked like this in here now. I bought a whole stack of hay from Marnie because I really need to stop starving my animals. Then I went back to Ginger to do more fixing and smelting activities, featuring lots of healthy plant destruction, planting these chi beans, and finding an extra to join the party. And I called in some rain at the last minute to save me some time tomorrow with the farm work. A couple comments mentioned around this point that this bird would give walnut hints, but by the time I found this out, it would only tell me about the frog. I planted some broccoli to see if fall seeds would grow here, and that fairy rose had finished growing, so I sold my first one of those. I set up this obelisk chest where I started putting all the supplies for upcoming obelisks, and while looking at the collections, I noticed the dehydrator also worked on edible mushrooms, so I tried that. I gave Frog Statue a sword for good measure, and put these mini shipping bins in the greenhouse to quickly sell the quality crops, where I also harvested my first broccoli. I gathered clams and coral for the water obelisk, and learned that the botanist perk also applies to this. Man, that is a really good perk. The next day, I gathered more coconuts for the desert obelisk, got a few chi beans in the process, and topped off on desert trader stuff. I also snagged and sold these dried mushrooms for the collections. I elected to swap out the jade for quartz, since I didn't really need stairs for now. These raccoons seemed to have the family thing happening, but now my guy needed dried purple mushrooms and white algae, the usual family making ingredients. Then back to the island, I planted the new chi beans, and saw the broccoli was growing fine. This place might just be a bigger greenhouse. I went to work getting this whole area ready for starfruit galore, and did the usual multitasking things, minus the smelting, since I'd forgotten coal like a noob. Then I went back home, gave this guy his algae, and turned my ancient fruit into seeds before sleep. I set up for a dive for gold for sprinklers, along with seed making, went to get coal from Clint, but the ADHD hit hard. I forgot to get coal, and just didn't actually mine. Instead, I went to Sandy's, bought slightly too many starfruit, got this inspiring rhetoric from Sebastian, and planted as much— What are you saying to me, Rhett? Look at these strange melons. That, folks, is chi fruit. That guy never ceases to amaze me. It's got like glasses on it, man. In the end, I harvested the grown stars, and planted the entire farm with more, and had just enough fertilizer to get the farm completely ready to go, along with a little spillover right here. I counted out the sprinklers I still needed for this bad boy, and the magic number was 37. And just before I set out on the gold mission, I had a thought. Transmutation. Wait a minute. Maybe it's more efficient to buy iron and turn it into gold than to buy gold. This is good stuff. But first, let's harvest this incredible amount of wine and juice, shall we? I went for juice for the next batch because juice is faster and I needed more money soon. The day late starfruit wine finished as I was wrapping up, so thankfully the kegs were all synced up again. Look at all that product. The journey of turning chi fruit back into beans began soon after. This will be happening a lot. I made one last key decision before bed and started working on a new section for plants on the valley farm. Oh, and we are really getting somewhere with that. The expansion continued the next morning, including a detour to move the main produce chest out of the way, and having Robin move the mill to here, and this shed to here. Then I got a reminder. Oh, is it? Okay. And I couldn't just skip the fair this year either. You'll see why soon. I blasted back to the island, and with some cheese, Elliot hit 8 hearts.
I have some terrible news, my guy. I have some awful news.
I swapped out the last of the island chi fruit with ancient seeds and went home to set up this new chi bean farm for success. I also learned chest types can be hot switched now while I was picking my items to impress at the fair, and I transmuted some iron to make sure all the beans I'd made would get watered. I started the day with the greenhouse, polishing off the last of the ingredients for the desert obelisk, except the million G's of course. At the fair, I used this setup to become a 3-year consecutive champ, scoring the new achievement that had been added for winning first place at the fair. Now you see why I had to come back. The tokens were enough to buy this prize ticket, which was good enough for me. The next day, I finally tackled the gold for sprinklers problem in a bit of a hybrid way. I started the day off in the mines, getting gold and chi beans, and took a pit stop at Clint's once he was open. I'd had the bright idea I mentioned on day 294, and I was right. Buying 10 iron ore and 2 coal costs 3,000 G, whereas buying 5 gold ore and 1 coal costs 4,000 G. After all the times of being an absolute peanut in this playthrough, this genius behavior feels really nice to share. With that, the mining and smelting began. Then the coolest thing happened.
What? What just happened?
This was my very first trinket. Fairy Box summons a level 1 fairy companion that heals you in combat situations. And that's what it did. It followed me around like an adorable little pet and healed me anytime I was fighting.
That's really cool.
Keep up the good work, ma'am. I snagged the Void Spirit Slayer goal amidst the fighting and healing, and I ended up with this stuff from the journey, including 10 extra chi beans, which I planted and fertilized, but didn't quite water in time. I harvested the next round of chi fruit, retrieved my furnaces, and got down to the multitasking vibes once more. Amidst the farm building, my first mystic sap had arrived, and I made my first treasure totem. I ended up with a fair bit of coal, a couple chi beans, and a whopping 3 chicken statues. What's with the chicken statues in this game? And my sturgeon were getting obscurely needy again. You want 3 omnigeodes? Guys, have I got some fantastic news for you. The animals finally didn't hate me, imagine that, and if I'm counting right, the 12th and final dino hatched today. I transmuted as much gold as I had refined quartz, and made a crisp 39 more sprinklers. I slapped those bad boys down, bought more deluxe speed grow from Sandy, placated my strange fish, and refreshed my lovely pumpkin juice makers. It's so nice seeing all this money coming in, gotta say. Pumpkin day had arrived once again, so once I'd sorted the chi beans, grabbed the quartz I'd queued up in these Crystallaria, and finished off smelting the iron and quartz, I went to work on good old pumpkin acquisition. I picked up a new tier of mastery during the haul, and despite my animal's best efforts, I finally got every spot filled with a pumpkin without error. I crafted the last of the sprinklers I needed, polished off the gold and iridium smelting, re-upped the newly well-treated animal's food, and got some much-needed sleep. I harvested the last of the smelted metal bounty on day 300, and received a letter. Jody. Some things never change. I threw those furnaces in the shed they were once in quite a while ago, and I bought out one last time on starfruit seeds. And I actually saved enough money for the boat. Look at me go. But I had to make another purchase. Hey Elliot, you wanna join the conglomerate? As if he could resist the charms of accidentally remembering his birthday 2 years in a row. In my efforts to bring him into the fold, I ran headlong into 2 cutscenes about the perils of the creative struggle. And they were nice, but it's day 300, we gotta get a move on here. Welcome to the collective, Elliot. I got a couple clams for the future obelisk, and threw down those 37 sprinklers Ginger Farm needed. I harvested the ripe stars, rotated the broccoli out, and watered the farm for what I suspected would be the last time. I went home, stood next to my bed, churning out ancient seeds, and wondered what on earth I was going to do next. And with that, 300 days had concluded. And yet perfection still eluded me. But I got in the walnut door, and I finally know what perfection is. The money situation is fantastic. We'll be able to afford whatever we need to score perfection, but I may end up having to lean on the wiki for the final stretch, because like, where are these fish? Drop me some hints in the comments, and if you haven't seen them yet, go check out the first 200 days of this run.